Hey, it's the Nitro RC Nerds here. Once again, at least one half of the crew. Damn, what a crazy week. Alright, so we began the week at the track. Andrew starts feeling a little bit sick, so okay, no problem. We'll shut the practice down, come on home. Starts running a fever later that night. And then gets really bad that evening. The next day, told my wife, right, let's just go ahead and take him to the doctor. So she makes an appointment, and before he even gets to the doctor, she, calls me almost in tears, and she, is telling me she thinks that he has meningitis. And, I asked her, what makes you think that? And she said, look up the symptoms, and he has all the symptoms for it. So I phoned his physician, and the physician basically said, yeah, get him to the emergency room immediately. So my wife took him in, my parents go there, everyone's in a big panic. We're thinking he's going to have to get a spinal tap done and all that. Long story short, the boy had mono. Are you kidding me? I don't want to know how the hell he got it, but that's all it was. So anyways, unbelievable. So yeah, he's up resting from his case of mono. Oh God. And so with that, let's go ahead and talk about our current projects, at least the things that I'm doing solo. Someone recently asked me, how is it we're able to keep up with all the settings, priorities, needs, etc. for all of our vehicles? And the answer is simply that I have a great memory. Actually, no, I use a spreadsheet such as this right here. And I can tell you that this is the only way that I can keep my pulse on each of the vehicles, the snapshot of their setup, what changes I've made, what the results are, pending needs, all that good stuff. And while the spreadsheet is nice, I'm actually going to be developing an online tool for this. It's an application that we can go in and slice and dice our data and take a look at whatever views that we want to understand the trends. I'm going to create alerts and things like that. So if I haven't, as an example, let's say clean my air filter after X number of runs, I'll get an alert and things like that. So if anyone on here is in IT and interested in working on this project with me, certainly let me know. I'm sure that we can find a place to host it for free and perhaps use an instance of MySQL or something like that for the back end. But anyways, with that, here is what we have going on. All you Hyper 7 guys out there should be very proud in the fact that we took Andrew's Hyper 7 out to the track last week to give it its final run before we rebuild it. Say that 3 times fast, before we rebuild it. Ugh. Anyways, the thing, however, is that we ran it as is. And while this buggy is in really good shape, it does need some maintenance. So Andrew was a little bit concerned with respect to how it would, handle the track. And frankly, he was worried that it was going to break. But I reminded him that this is a Hyper 7. And not only did it come through unscathed, meaning that nothing broke on it, it actually handled itself pretty well at the track. I wasn't really all that surprised because this is one durable, ready-to-run buggy. And because it's essentially waiting for his rebuild, he was gracious enough to register as an organ donor, and he's temporarily giving up his receiver that can be used in Andrew's Losi 2.0, which I'll go over in just a bit. So for now, the Hyper 7 here is just going to rest a bit, and my hope is by the end of September to have him rebuilt completely. And the one thing I guarantee, it'll be faster and stronger than ever. And I imagine he'll look pretty sharp too. That's my Mugen. I've put a gallon into it now, so I decided to go ahead and just tear it apart, give it a good inspection. Went through the front clip, cleaned the bearings, rebuilt the shocks, rebuilt the front diff. I actually rebuilt each of the diffs, but I used the same diff oil values. And the only setup change I made was to the anti-squat and the rear toe in. I went 0 degrees anti-squat and 3 degrees of rear toe in. So I did that via a new insert here on the rear lower mount. One other small change I made was to the rear shocks. I decreased the shock oil from 40 weight to 35 weight. Once again, my whole goal here is to reduce some of the stiffness on the rear end of the buggy. So we'll see how that plays out. Pretty soon though, I'm going to rebuild these all together. And to me, rebuild is not just when you change the oil, it's when you actually go in and rebuild the entire thing. Take it apart, clean the shafts, replace your O-rings, all the good stuff. And I also got some soft springs for the rear. The stock ones on here, they are actually hard. So, but before I put these on, I do want to test it out with the 35 weight because obviously I don't want to make multiple changes at once. So we'll see how this works, and then what I'll do is I'll give these a shot. Just little things like that you have to continue tweaking, I guess, until you get the feel that you want, the precise feel of the buggy that you want to have. And this is near perfect gear mesh for anyone, I guess, wondering what it should sound like. Put some new fuel tubing on it. It needed it. Decided to give a little color, so I went with red. So there we go. Got it all back together. Basically gave it a 3-month inspection. Took it 95% apart. Thing I can tell you, man, it's smooth as silk. Everything in here has been checked out. Now ready to kick some ass at the track. As for my beloved 810, I'm going to do part 2 of its rebuild now that I've got my pulse on how it handles on the track. There's a few little tweaks that I want to make to it. Also want to add a few more performance upgrade parts to it, like some Techno drive shafts, some additional ones. I'm going to go through, check all the differentials, make sure they're not leaking. I'm going to rebuild the center differential with the heavy-duty diff case. I'm going to put on some new servo saver bearings. I haven't done that yet. I'm going to rebuild the servo saver itself, put on new steering link. I'm going to completely rebuild the shocks. And again, when I say rebuild, I mean I will basically have 2 sets of shocks. So soup to nuts, everything on it will be rebuilt. Additionally, I got her some new rims here. I will throw some tires on them. I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do, if they're going to be impacts, blockades, bow ties. Who knows yet? I'm going to test them out on my other buggies and on here, figure out which ones I like the best. Other than that, I would have to say that she's definitely surpassed my expectations with respect to how she's handling on the track. And at this point, it's a racer. Now I'm just going to turn her into a badass racer. Oh, and I also have a new engine coming for it. Additionally, my OFNA starter box crapped out at the track the other day. It just stopped working altogether. I figured out it's this Tamiya plug right here, this connector inside just had the biscuit. So I'm going to go ahead and do a hatchet job on this. Here we go, now we got that fixed. Not the most elegant solution, but it works, and it'll stay. As for Big Bertha here, I've got some performance upgrade parts that we're going to add to it, as well as continue to tankify her, make her one tough-ass bitch. I mean, she's already a damn hoodlum. It's as tough as they come, but you know how it is. It's one of those things I just want to continue to make indestructible. And I guess it goes back to after I first built this kit, and this was my first kit, by the way. Things broke the first few times I went out to the track, and my son Andrew, he laughed at me. And he should know me, and he should know that all that did was light a fire under my ass, because from that point on, I just went off on it and ensured that nothing else would ever break on this again. And I'm just going to continue with that durability, tanktification effort, whatever you want to call it. You can see here, last week I put on a new aluminum steering plate for it. And I could actually feel a difference, you know, durability aside, I could feel a difference in the steering stiffness, which is a positive aspect in my opinion. And not only is she a bruiser, but it's got some get up and go as well. I mean, this thing, it can move. And so, you know, it's always a balancing act between keeping it light and fast, but also ensuring that it can take anything that you throw at it. All right, so my goals for this week are to check the front diff, and the last time that I checked it, it was about 6 weeks ago. It had a leak, and it was a small leak, but it was a little bit odd because I was not able to detect any sort of leak. There were no signs of a leak or anything like that. but the oil was probably about 3/4 full, which kind of freaked me out a little bit. So I rebuilt it, and now I just want to make sure that whatever I did to it has fixed the problem permanently. I also want to replace the rod end and balls, you can see here, on this rear upper link, at least this one right here, because it's beginning to show a little bit of wear. And then finally what I'm going to do is rebuild the shocks here. By that, just take it apart, clean the shafts, just make sure that everything on it's smooth as silk. Something you want to do at least at a minimum every gallon. And once again, save the parts you have, because those may be good, but you have peace of mind knowing that, hey, I rebuilt it, I put on new seals, all that, and everything is a-okay. And then finally, once again, the battery's starting to act up. Headed out to the track last week, I only got about a tank through it. Everything worked fine, at least. Andrew got a little bit sick, as I mentioned, so I had to cut practice short, but right there, look at that. Nothing. So let's see what it says on the charger. You can see I'm not touching anything, it's doing it by itself. And so we'll go ahead and put it here on the charger. And it's showing at least charging right now at 6.9, 6.91. If you guys can see that. So, oh boy, I don't know. At this point, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cycle the batteries, which with me is it's kind of a dangerous thing when I get into doing this kind of stuff, but I don't know. We'll see. It just seems like now it's dropped to 0 and it's still at 6.6 volts, so something's not right. If you have any suggestions, once again, please let me know. Other than that, I'm just going to cycle it. By that, just discharge everything, charge it back up, do it 3 times, and then take it out to the track again and see how she does. And so there, I just actually charge it for just a few minutes, not even that, a few seconds, and everything's working. So I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's like it just needs a little jump or something. It's I don't know what it is, but as soon I can put it on the charger just for a second or two, and everything's fine. So anyways, we'll get that figured out. Again, it's least of my worries. It's a battery. Worst case scenario, I have to replace it. I'm just more curious, like, why it happened. What the hell did I do to cause that, if anything? In the coming weeks, I'm finally going to put on a M2C 4-shoe aluminum clutch. The stock one I have on here has been okay. I wanted to at least get a gallon out of it, and I did, so I know that I should see at least a 25% performance increase with this engine going from 3 composite, which is stock, to 4 aluminum. I'm also putting on an aluminum steering crank, and then I'm going to start tweaking the actual setup for it now that I'm consistent with it. I might be consistently bad, but at least I'm consistent. So all in all, this thing is it's in really good shape, man. I love this truckie so much, and I cannot wait just to get it out there and just go full throttle all the time with it. And then finally, the beast, Savage X 4.6. Honestly, I've punked out. I haven't really done anything to it. I started to order some parts from Amy and Hobby yesterday, but some of the things that I wanted are actually back ordered. My goal was to have this rebuilt, or at least fixed and ready to go by the 14th. That's not going to happen. So now I've just got to tweak that goal and make a new one to where I want to at least have it broken down by the 14th. So yeah, it's really, really frustrating because we live in a new neighborhood and there's all sorts of construction and whatnot going on. And oh my God, every time I just drive by these things and I'm like, God, the Savage would just kill at that place. There's all these really cool bashing spots that we got to get back out to. So that's that, but it will definitely be well worth it because this thing, it just can't sit around. This thing's been sitting now for about 3 to 4 weeks. I'm not going to have that. It's got to get up and go.